Yeah, well, I try to get in. I try to get the benefit and then get out before there's a rug pull, like you said, or before there's a collapse.
Vaughan Morrill is a YouTuber and a serial Ponzi scheme promoter. It's clear from our conversation here that he's playing a game where he knows the platforms that he's promoting and referring people to are going to collapse. He earns generous commissions from these referrals and then tries to take the money out before the Ponzi scheme actually collapses. The problem here is that the majority of people who invest in Ponzi schemes, the victims, they don't know that it's a game. So he's playing a game that they don't even know that they're playing. They think that they're making an investment. You see this in Ponzi schemes like Cash FX or NovaTech, where over 90% of the people involved lose money, but the promoters are calling it a legacy company. They're saying that it's going to be around for years to come. A lot of the members will even say, oh, my grandchildren will reap the benefits of my investments right now. It'll still be going then. It's just simply not true. So they're losing their hard-earned money because they trusted someone that they shouldn't have. During this conversation, we cover a lot about securities laws, morality, and specifics of Ponzi schemes, especially NovaTech. And as much as I disagree with Vaughn, completely disagree on all of this, I do appreciate that he had the courage to get on here and discuss these things openly, because most people that are promoting these Ponzi schemes wouldn't do that. Okay, so let's get into it. Well, thanks for jumping on here, Vaughn. I sent you a comment on your YouTube channel, and then you decided to, and then I said, hey, like, let's have a chat. And you said, let's do it. And I really appreciate you doing that, because like most of the time, whenever I challenge someone to get on a call with me and kind of have like a friendly civil debate, they always back out. So yeah, I appreciate you jumping on. What made you actually want to take the call?
Well, I know you. Okay, in the sense of I know your channel and I've watched some of your videos, and I've got like one of my videos on unlimited freedom is top 10 scams in history, right? And it's where we talk about, and Charles Ponzi is one of those. So I'm definitely interested in the in that whole conversation, and interested in what you do. So and I've watched your videos. I'm kind of like some guys on YouTube, I just like to, when I'm doing my workout, I'm in the gym or whatever, I just like to throw on their channel and just listen to their stuff, and because it's interesting, and I appreciate the intellectual, kind of the intellectual side of what you do. And I've seen you talk to some people on your channel that, wow, you know what I mean, just seem to it needed to really learn and understand the stuff that you know about, because I mean, let's face it, you don't want to get involved in something not knowing all the risks, right? And if you don't know about scams, you don't know about Ponzi schemes, you don't know things of that nature, then you're really putting yourself, in my opinion, you're putting yourself on the defense right away, because you just you can't really spot a scam, right, if you don't know what you're looking for. And then let's say something looks like that, right? And because it looks like that, you make the decision, hey, I don't want to get involved. Well, that's good. That means that you were using your critical thinking skills, and you said, hey, I don't want to get involved in that. Or you can look at it and say, hey, yeah, it looks like it might be that. I don't know for sure. Let me, I want to, like in my case, I want to put in a little bit of an investment, see how it works, practice risk management, and see if I can benefit, right, from the program. So right. Hopefully that makes sense. I mean, you just want to know before you go in. You want to have the knowledge of stuff what you talk about. So I thought it was kind of cool that you commented on my channel, and I'm glad to meet you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one thing I picked up on whenever you were saying that, was that you said that if you're unsure about something, what you think that you should do is, and what you do personally, I should say it that way, is that you take your money and you put it into it to see if it works. But as you know, since you covered Ponzi schemes, that doesn't actually tell you too much, because what Ponzi schemes do basically is they end up rug pulling, they end up collapsing. So if you put money in and it pays out for 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, that doesn't, to me, that doesn't really tell you much. So that's why, just what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, Brandon, you can't know for sure, man. And so at the end of the day, with a lot of these programs, especially crypto-based programs, there's now I do have one program that I talk about where we had a team actually fly over to Istanbul to meet this guy. They verified his identity. They sat down with him and watched him trade. And that's as far as I've ever seen it go. Like with a cryptocurrency based platform where it's crypto in, crypto out. As you know, you mentioned the legal aspect of it, and right now regulation is catching up with cryptocurrency. It's not quite where it is with fiat currency at the moment. But to kind of answer your question, man, I mean, you can't really know for sure, right? And so it just becomes a matter of you're taking the evidence, you're looking at the evidence, and then you're making a decision, right? And yes, you don't want to be involved in something that is wrong or that is going to rug pull, right? You don't want to do that. But the reality of the space that I'm in when it comes to crypto platforms is that you're going to have some platforms that do that. I mean, we just had FX Master Gold just rug pulled, right? Which I did a video on that.
So I saw that you did something with BOJ. Was it like Bank of Gerald? I think you did something with him, right? Okay, so from what I can tell, I didn't go through all of them, but the ones, there are some that are still currently running, but maybe only kind of. But almost everything, I'm just going to say almost, but I want to say all of the things that he's ever promoted has rug pulled or collapsed. But I can't say that truthfully without actually doing more research. So almost everything that he's promoted has rug pulled. And what you just said is that some of them do it. But to me, it seems like almost all of them do it. So anything that's not promising, it doesn't matter if it's a guarantee or not. But with an expectation of returns of more than, say, 1% a week, 2% a week. Some of them are saying 25% per week. With those kinds of expectations, it's pretty obvious that something's going on that's nefarious, at least. So yeah, you said some, and I'm seeing that almost all of them. So what's your response to that if almost everything that you're newer to this, but Bank of Gerald promotes, if almost all of them collapse?
Okay, so yeah, man. Look, I mean, Bank of Gerald, I look up to him. He's a great guy, and I was very happy that he collabed with me, and he's a good dude, but I can't speak for him, right? So I mean, I can tell you kind of like what's going on with my situation, and I can tell you my opinion on some stuff. But as far as what's going on with BOJ's channel and BOJ, you would have to just have him, you know what I mean, to so that he could speak for himself on as far as he goes.
Got
But
it.
what I
So
will say
really,
on
sorry, I don't mean to cut you off because I wasn't
that's okay.
specifically asking about him. I'm asking about the
Okay.
programs that he's promoted, because
Right.
you're promoting pretty similar programs or the same ones now as he would promote.
Sure.
Sure. So his past, all of the programs, not necessarily him, the past programs, almost all of them have collapsed. So I'm just asking, like, whenever you say some of them collapse in this space, all of them, from what I can tell, collapse at some point. So I'm just asking specifically about the platform.
Okay, so we have some that are still going. Okay, a big controversial one right now is NovaTech. NovaTech has not collapsed and has not rug pulled as of right now, right? And that one's been going on for about 4 years.
Do you think they're in that process?
I don't know, but I think that based on what they're doing, it seems to me that they're trying to survive and they're trying to stay alive as a company, because they had a great opportunity to rug pull back in October and they didn't do it, right? And so the question is this an exit strategy? Are they trying to dwindle down, right? Are they trying to string people along so that they can get out and try to protect themselves? Well, I don't know the answer to that question, right? But as of right now, my hope is that they get through this, and that they're able to figure out, okay, why are you getting these notices or these threats from regulators? Okay, why is that happening? How can you fix it? Right? Why does your support not answer people? Okay, how can you fix it? If you've got this money, why don't you hire a support team? Why don't you get people get them into an office or something and have them start answering your support tickets, right? So there's things that I think they can do to improve. And so what I'm hoping in the long term is that they do, full well knowing that they could at any time.
What do you
any of
think
these
the odds
platforms
are that they do that? What do you think the odds are that they actually send all of the people that have requested withdrawals since December 6th, all their trading account withdrawals? What do you think the odds are that they pay all of those people their trading account withdrawals on April 1st?
I can only speculate, man. I mean, I don't think it looks good. I mean, they would have to see. Here's the thing, man. They would have to have access to liquidity, and a lot of liquidity, in order to do that, because people are so scared at this point with NovaTech. People are so freaked out that now let's say that they do open it up April 1st for the trading account withdrawals. If they do that and they don't have the funds, right, liquid, obviously, I mean, they're not going to do it, right? They're going to say, well, give us 30 more days. Or they're going to come up with an excuse, or they're going to say we got hacked, right? They're going to, they'll have some other thing that they come up with to kind of string it along. And then at that point, I think it's going to be, it's just going to be another red flag and another thing that's going against them. And yeah, so I'm really, really interested to see what does happen in April. That's really, I mean, I could only speculate.
What do you think the green flags are with NovaTech? So, I mean, if you mentioned something like it's been around for 4 years, like the average Ponzi scheme lasts 4.3 years. That was a study done by Columbia University, right? I've linked it in my channel. You've probably heard me say that 10 times to James Corbett, because that's all he could say. What do you think that the green flags are for NovaTech? Like, what do you think points to it not being a Ponzi scheme?
Well, listen, man, and I've said this on my channel before, I'm not a Ponzi schemer, right? But if I was, right, I would have pulled the rug in October, right? Because that way they could have kept the money from Canada, they could have kept the money from California, they could have kept all that, and then, bounced and got out and disappeared. Then you would have logged on to NovaTech, you got the 503, this website no longer exists. And so that is now, so the question there is, are they just, I mean, let's say that they are, right? Let's get for the sake of argument, let's say they are a Ponzi scheme and they've paid out all this money since October. Well, that wouldn't have been very smart on their part, right? If they, now let's just, and I'm saying, like, in that sense, we're saying that, okay, you are a Ponzi scheme, you're a Ponzi scheme, you're purposely, right? You're purposely trying to get over on people, you're purposely trying to rake in a large sum of money. Man, if that were the case, I would have left in October, man. So that, I think, can be evidence that the company is trying to survive. Like, I get these messages all the time from people who are getting their bonus account payouts, right? And they hit me up and they say, hey, Vaughn, man, I got my payout. I'm like, great, man, good. Let me know, what happens. Keep me posted. Personally, I'm not taking payouts right now. I'm just rolling everything over. And, if it rugs, it rugs, man. But, we'll just have to see if they're able to pull through it. I mean, we can't, and I have to stress this with you, man. We can't know for sure, right? Yeah,
If I said that I do, I mean, what if I said that I know that this is going to collapse, and that I know that it's a Ponzi scheme, and that so what you have on your side here of saying, well, it may or may not be, what you have is something that would be called like plausible deniability. You can like spin something to say, this is why this is happening. This is because they paid out in Canada. They paid out in California. They didn't really pay out in Canada. I mean, I've gotten lots of messages personally. This guy messaged me the other day, said he's from, I think he's from Ontario. I can send you privately the message. I don't want to share it publicly, but he lost $300,000. He was a college student, and someone he trusted told him to put money into NovaTech, right? Lost $300,000, and it's gone. He's in Canada. He's not going to get his money back. I know it. I think you've already said you're leaning towards he probably won't get his money back. So what you have is plausible deniability on your side, where I can't point to one fact. It's not like, let's think of it like a criminal trial. I don't have DNA evidence to point to one thing to say this is a Ponzi scheme because here's the money in, here's the money out. I don't have all of the transactions to look at. The only way anybody could ever do that is whenever the government eventually does come in and takes a closer look at it, like they did with, say, Emini FX, right? But what I do have is circumstantial evidence, and I have a lot of that. I mean, I can walk you through all of the clear red flags that it's a Ponzi scheme. There's at this point, now that they pause trading accounts, I don't think there's no Ponzi scheme that I know of, or crypto investment platform, however you want to call it, that has paused withdrawals for more than a month and then came back and started paying out. I mean, if you can name one that's done that, I would love to hear it, but I don't think that they have. So what I'm saying is that it's a Ponzi scheme because you can even be convicted with circumstantial evidence in like a murder trial, as an example. You can, just with circumstantial evidence, the jury can say, hey, you were here at this time. You're the last person to see them. You did, like, the glove fit you, like OJ style. If it doesn't fit, you must have quit. Like those kind of things. If you can place someone in the vicinity, they had a motive, those kind of things. Circumstantial, you can convict someone, right? So
Sure.
If you add up enough circumstantial evidence for NovaTech, the only green flag that you gave me for NovaTech here, I'd love to hear more if you have them. The only green flag that you gave me was that they would have rug pulled in October instead of paying out Canada and California. But I don't think you have proof that they paid out people in Canada, especially not after December. They didn't pay out everybody in Canada. They didn't pay out everybody in Canada. I've gotten messages. There's a Facebook group. Shout out to the NovaTech Scam Now What Facebook group. There's a lot of evidence in there that people from Canada aren't getting their withdrawals. You can look at Trustpilot for NovaTech. There are a lot of fake reviews that used to be in there, and a lot of people that were like true believers. Lots of people saying
that's another issue.
Lots of people are not getting in Canada are getting their money. So your only green flag that you mentioned here so far about NovaTech is that they would have rug pulled sooner but that's not. And I mean, if you have any more green flags, I'll stop there. I could keep going, but if you want to share more green flags, I can share 10 that tell me it's a clear-cut Ponzi, circumstantial evidence. And when you put them all together, it's clearly 99.999% a Ponzi. But if you have any more green flags, I'd like to hear them.
Well, once again, man, keep in mind, I'm not saying it's not a Ponzi. Well, what I'm saying is I don't know, right? And so I'm not, I don't want to take the posture here of defending NovaTech, because like I said, I'm not sure which way that this thing is going to go. And yeah, slow pay turns into no pay, as they say. And, that might be what happens here. Once again, man, I'm very interested to see what happens in April. Because I think that's going to be a telltale sign of whether or not the one of the final nails is going into the coffin, or if they are going to pull through. We'll have to see. Now, in terms of green flags at this point, I wouldn't recommend somebody sign up for NovaTech right now. As me and you were sitting here talking, like, no, I would say you just got to wait and see what happens, right? If it does stabilize in the future, possibly then. But I'm not like actively encouraging, right, anybody to sign up. As a matter of fact, I've got some friends and family members who I didn't even really give them much of a choice. I said, dude, you're doing this, right? You're signing up for this. And so I got them involved, and I need to which I am prepared to, if it does fail, to personally give them their investment back, right? That were my people that I personally brought in
Question
in that
about
sense.
that.
Now,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but both of us have, whenever we start talking, we talk a lot. So it's good to kind of like get some back and forth. What about the people you said you're going to make them whole, the people that you signed up directly?
not whole. I'm going to give them their initial investment back.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You got the commissions from it. So whenever I say make them whole, I mean you're going to get back, you're going to give them back what they put in. So what about the other people? You still have the links live on your YouTube channel in your description from all of your videos. Yeah, you do.
Sure.
And I mean, this is February 24th. So, and you're saying that you wouldn't recommend it. So anybody that has signed up under you directly through your links on YouTube, when they rug pull, when I'm saying when, you can change that if you'd like, but when they rug pull, are you going to give all of the people their money back that were underneath you that signed up directly through your referral link that you took commissions from?
No. Okay. No, if they rug pull, then my posture on that is that, listen, you knew what you were doing. You of your own, made your own decision, right? And even like the story you told me about the guy in Canada who with the $300,000, that's a tough one, man. That's a hard knock. Okay, but at the end of the day, you got to take personal responsibility and accountability for your own decisions. I'm not telling anybody what to do, right? And so what I do is I talk about these opportunities. Yeah, the links are on there. You're welcome to sign up. You're welcome to not sign up. You're welcome to say this is great. You're welcome to say this sucks. You can say whatever you want in my comment section. But at the end of the day, and this is kind of what we were starting to get into on YouTube with the whole regulation thing. I mean, the answer is not, and I appreciate what you're trying to do, because it's clear to me that you have a heart for people, and you don't want to see people get taken advantage of and things of that nature, man. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is, when people make these decisions, who's the responsible one? I mean, do you want to blame somebody other than the person who actually made the investment? But they're the one who made the decision to do that, at the end of the day. Now, the reason why I'm going to pay back some of my family members and good friends, dude, is because I basically forced them to do it. I was like, you're doing this, right? Because that's, at the time, I was like, man, this is cool. The money was compounding. Everything was doing good. No problem with withdrawals, no problems like that. And it was like, man, let's get in here and make some money, right? And but if I were to say, hey, this is the opportunity, make sure you do your own due diligence. I'm not a financial advisor, yada, 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 all the type of disclaimers that we give on here.
I mean, and then they go really fast on the disclaimers part. Disclaimers do not negate securities laws at all. There's a lot of case law on that. So it doesn't matter if you say those things, it doesn't actually legally protect you against the law. Maybe morally you feel better about saying, do your own thing, but legally you're still committing, like you personally are committing securities fraud by selling an unregistered security, or in any form, whether you say go sign up or not, you're making it public. So what do you say about the securities laws part, saying that disclaimers don't matter, or even the fact that NovaTech and yourself are committing securities fraud? What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, you wouldn't be the first person to say that to me. I have people who come on my channel and, want to, say all different types of stuff. And I just leave those comments on there because that's fine. You say whatever you want. The securities laws as they are right now, to my understanding, is that they're not completely updated for cryptocurrency. And I know that NovaTech's stance is that they're not doing any actual fiat trading in, you know, restricted areas. Now, like I said before, I don't know what they're doing and what they're not doing. I'm not there. I'm not with them. I don't see, you know, exactly what's going on behind the scenes. I see that I see the possibility of being able to have returns if you know what you're doing in trading, because I'm a trader myself.
Can you, really quick on that point,
Sure.
can you share any registered, legally registered and audited investment that returns 300% or more per year?
No, man, this is these types of investments are very high risk. They're high yield if you do it the right way, you know, and if you get out, you know, like you're saying, before the rug pulls or whatever happens. But you're not going to, you know, you're any type of thing that has big returns that ought to get people to be more careful up front, right? Before, you know, getting into something like that. You obviously you don't want to invest anything that you can't afford to lose, right? And you've got to understand when you're going into something like that. I mean, you've got to use some risk management. And I try to preach that. I try to teach that on my channel as much as possible. And, you know, and that's what I intend to do. And yeah, man. So
did you see
does
the
that
video? Yeah, that was a good enough answer for me for now. Did you see I think you said you watched another video, the video that I did with James Corbett. He's a 2-star ambassador in NovaTech. Did you see that video?
not the whole thing. I'm going to watch it after this, though.
Okay, the very first 2 minutes of it, I walked James through the securities laws. We can do that here. I can touch on it very briefly. I think we should, but I walked him through the Howey test, which is how you determine what a security is. And then I also showed him directly on the SEC's website that it doesn't matter if you're using cryptocurrency to invest into a security. It doesn't matter. It still needs to be legally registered and regulated. It does not bypass securities laws. So the first like 2 minutes of that video, I walked James through it, and he agreed that they passed the Howey test, meaning that there's a reasonable expectation of profit derived from the efforts of others in a common enterprise. He agreed to that, and I think that you would too. So that's how you determine what a security is. And then the other side of it, the only other thing that we have to look at here is whether if you're using crypto or fiat, does that matter? Does that actually change if it's a security or not? And the SEC is very clear about that in black and white. In one sentence says, no, it doesn't matter if you use crypto. It does not negate securities laws. So if they pass the Howey test and the SEC is saying you can't use crypto to invest in a security, it doesn't change the laws, then how is it not a security? Like what would make it not an unregistered security?
Well, as I understand it, you know, when you're dealing with cryptocurrency, there's still some legal protections that they have. And you know, I understand that you're saying that it's not that because, you know, because of this sentence, right? But and crypto regulation is a big thing, man. And so we'll just have to see what happens with that into the future.
Well, really quick, it's not about crypto regulation. So this is the thing that people conflate usually. People think it's crypto and crypto's not regulated. We just have to wait to see the regulation on crypto. NovaTech is not cryptocurrency. NovaTech's not Bitcoin. NovaTech is not a coin itself. It's not cryptocurrency. They use cryptocurrency to fund a security. So it doesn't matter if I paid, if you said, hey, Brandon, I got this security, or I got this investment, you'll make $1,000 a week, you'll make 3% per week. But you can pay me in apples and I'll pay you back in apples. You're still getting securities fraud. It doesn't matter. Like apples aren't a security by themselves. They're not regulated. Apples aren't a security. They're just the medium in which we're exchanging the value, basically. So just because they're using crypto, you're saying crypto is not regulated and those kind of things. That's conflating two different issues, and that's what virtually everyone that I've seen try to make these arguments say and I'll pop something up on the screen. I don't want to screen share right now because we're having a good conversation, but I'll pop something up on the screen that says directly from the SEC, and you can take a look at it yourself. I'll send you a link to it. So given that NovaTech isn't a security or isn't they're offering a security, given that they are not, or given the SEC says that if they have to use if they use cryptocurrency, it doesn't bypass securities laws, and that NovaTech isn't cryptocurrency, do you now agree that maybe it should be regulated if what I'm saying is true?
No, man, I'm not a fan of regulation. I think people ought to be able to make their own decisions, no matter how risky or stupid those decisions might be. I think it's our God-given right to make our own decisions about stuff. I'm not a fan of regulation. And
to be clear, I'm not asking
well,
you
let me just finish my
I'm asking
point.
Specifically if you think they're breaking the law. That's all I'm asking. Objectively, not like your feelings about it. Like objectively.
I have no idea. I have no idea if they are or not. I mean, time will tell. But what I can say is that I think there's still some legal loopholes with cryptocurrency. Okay, and we may not come to an agreement on that, but I think that there's
what
still.
Those are? Can you share that legal loophole?
No, I don't.
So where did you read that? From what reputable source, like the SEC, or where did you read the loophole?
Well, just based on my own experience. I'm not trying to like get into a legal debate with you, because I probably won't be able to win that, right? But what I will say is that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is that there's still these types of things have gotten a resurgence because of cryptocurrency, right? And because of the anonymity of it and things of that nature. So I'm not saying that you're wrong. What I'm saying is we're not totally caught up on it yet, in terms of the what's going on with cryptocurrency. It's still a bit of an unregulated sphere.
Right. So
I
want to point out that you haven't given me any of the actual loopholes, because I would like to see them if they exist, because then that would make me wrong about what I'm saying. But they don't exist, which is what I'm trying to share with you. It's actually very clear on the SEC's website. So with what you're saying, though, have you heard of Emini FX?
A little bit, yeah. Isn't it a failed platform?
It was a failed Ponzi scheme. Yeah, it's the with Eddie Alexander, he stole $248 million through Emini FX, and I think NovaTech's probably over $1 billion at this point in stolen money, or at least in assets under management, that most of which have been stolen. So Emini FX kind of destroys all of the arguments about loopholes with crypto, because Eddie Alexander, the CEO founder of Emini FX, he just pled guilty. He was charged with commodities fraud, which they're still investigating for securities fraud, very similar things. He just pled guilty to that, and he was charged, and he's been going through investigations for a long time, and he's pled guilty to it. So if there's a loophole for crypto, why do you think that he didn't have a loophole that he could get out of the case?
I couldn't tell you, man. I mean, it sounds like they got him. If he pled guilty, he's, probably taken some sort of plea deal, and he's trying to, get himself out of trouble. So yeah, in terms of can they do it, right? Can they come in and build a case against somebody and win the case? Well, absolutely. Anybody who is in power can make any decision they want and then justify it with, whatever law that they want to use. I mean, that's how power works, right? That's, people who are legally minded, right? The answers you're looking for are more simple, I think, than what than what lawyers and people who are experts on the law like to talk about, which is the people in power are the ones who make the decisions that they want to make, Brandon. And then they go into the law and they justify why they made those decisions based on whatever law they could find. Then they go to a court, the two lawyers fight with each other over the law. But at the end of the day, the people in power do what they want to do, right? And then they use the law to come along and justify what it is they want to do. So for whatever reason, they decided to go after that guy, right? And that might happen with NovaTech, right? They might decide to go after NovaTech, and who can really win if a big, giant, powerful government is coming after you? Now, if you've got a lot of money, you can at least, give yourself a defense. But at the end of the day, the people with the power are going to exercise that power.
Yeah.
Okay. And let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
If I have an investment platform, right, or some sort of platform that is going to, have a return, or if like me and you do a private loan deal between Brandon and Vaughn, right, and then you agree to the deal, right, we shake hands on it, and it doesn't work out in your favor, and it doesn't work out the way that you thought it would. Have I stolen your money? Is that your stance?
Yeah, if you're committing securities fraud and operating illegally and did so with those intentions, then that actually is illegal. That's fraud. So yes, that's morally wrong in my opinion, and also illegal. And I think in that case you should go to jail because you broke the law. The securities laws are there to protect the consumer. That would be me in the scenario that you just gave me. That's me in this scenario you just gave me, right? So that's what securities laws are for. It's so that you have to disclose how you're generating ROI. You have to disclose the bankruptcy that the owner filed 3 years ago. You have to disclose that the owner had a car repossessed in August of 2022 and never made a payment for 3 years. You have to disclose all these negative things, positive and negative, so that me, the consumer in this case, could be better informed. That's the only reason those laws are there. So yes, in the scenario you gave me, if what you did was knowingly fraudulent and you broke the law, and ignorance of the law does not negate the law, to be clear. So it doesn't matter if you knew. If you broke the law and got me to give you money fraudulently, then yeah, I think you should go to jail. And I hope the government steps in, sets up a receivership, and gives me some of my money back at least. That's what I would hope in that case.
Yeah, so what you're saying is it's not my fault, right? It's your fault, and it's the government's job to protect me from people like you. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying that I didn't have all of the information because you didn't register your investment. That's what I'm saying. If you registered your investment, then I would have the correct information because it would be audited. Then I would have the correct information to make a better informed decision. If you come to me and say, give me $10 and I'll give you 1,000 back tomorrow, I'm going to say, how are you going to make the money to do that? And you're going to say, oh, I'm going to go sell some drugs. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm an idiot, basically, if I could just give you money because it's clear. But now if you have regulated investment and you said, give me $10 and in a year from now, I'll give you 11 back. And here's how we're making the money. Here's everything that we've done to make the money. Here's the CEO's track record. Here's the person who set up the fund's track record. Now I have, now I can personally go in and verify the information is out there. And given that they're registered, then it's way more trustworthy because they're registered and audited. The information will be public. It's public. You can go look up Citibank's information. You can go through all the files because they file it with the SEC. You can't do that with NovaTech. Right. That's the issue. So yeah, I am blaming you in that case if you're doing it illegally and not giving me all of the proper audited, verifiable information. However, if you sold me something that you gave me all the verifiable information that was audited by a third party, not just something you said, audited by a third party, a trustworthy third party, and then I invested. Now it's my fault. now is I took a risk knowing all of the details that I needed to know, right? Now I know I took the risk. And I'm extreme ownership, Jocko Willenick. Huge fan of that book. I take extreme ownership for my actions in my life. But if you defraud me and you lie to me about something and you did it illegally, I really hope you go to jail in that case, because that means the government stepped in and can maybe recover some of my money. So, well, that leads me to a question for you really fast, unless you want to reply to that.
Well, I mean, yeah, I see where you're coming from with that. I just think that, listen, man, if you enter into a deal with somebody, right, or you put your money into something, right, you put it into something that you knew was a risk, you had the information up front, right? I'm not talking about like somebody intentionally trying to pull one over on you. And because what I try to do is I try to give people the understanding that, hey, yeah, this stuff is risky, right? I'm not telling anybody to like go and invest in something that's not a risk or that doesn't come with, there's a huge risk management piece to this that people need to know and people need to understand. But at the end of the day, we're all responsible for our own actions, man. And you can, Citibank could screw somebody over just as much as any other company. You mentioned things of this is more trustworthy because of this. Well, okay, but it's still you still at the end of the day you have to put your trust in it when you do business with it, and everything has a certain amount of risk to it. Some things are more risky than others, but you're going to have that same exposure just on a higher level. And if you're doing something with a platform that is risky or a platform that is crypto based, right? And look what happened with this. I forget what it was called off the top of my head right now, but FTX, there it is, FTX. I mean, people thought that was more of a safe thing because they had, they were huge donors to the Democrat Party, and they had a lot of, they had a lot team of lawyers, and I mean, that rugged on a massive scale. So you got, anything that you're doing, there's going to be risk involved.
You just gave me
right?
an exception though, rather than the rule. And also, I don't actually know enough about FTX because it already collapsed before I started really getting into like, wow, people were promoting NovaTech. So I don't know enough about it, but I don't think they were regulated yet. I'm not sure, but they definitely were buying politicians. The main thing about the SEC is that the laws are there. The Securities Act of 1933 is there specifically to protect the consumer so that you have all of the information, all of the audited information. That's the only reason it's there. So why would NovaTech not register with they're amazing at let's say that they are the best investment that's ever, the best audited investment that's ever existed if they got audited. Let's say that it just potentially happens to be the best investment that's ever existed. You can turn $1,000 into 4.7 billion in 10 years. Let's say that that's true. Okay, now why didn't they register with the SEC? It costs a couple $1,000 maybe. Why didn't they do that?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. But like I said, NovaTech, and you're right, NovaTech has exploded. It got big, and yeah, it really has gotten on the radar. And if they are doing something wrong, then I'm sure that will be uncovered, and that will be found out, right? And like I said before, it's only a matter of time, right? We're gonna have to see what happens, like I said, during the month of April, and we're gonna have to see what the company puts out, and if there are, any type of legal actions that are being taken. I think right now that would be from the majority of the people who are doing that are people who had money in the trading account that got frozen, and they're freaked out, and they're doing that just because, hey, they feel that they've been scammed, and so now they're going and doing that. Yeah, so I mean, it's very interesting. I'm not defending NovaTech per se. what I'm doing is I'm kind of agreeing with you that, yeah, this could happen, but we're just going to have to see how it, how it unfolds. Now the laws and the SEC and the regulation, at the end of the day, those things are all good intention programs, but they're not going to protect anybody. At the end of the day, people have to protect themselves by practicing their own risk management, making their own decisions. And, once again, with a criminal case or a civil case or whatever it may be, the people in power are the ones who are going to determine the outcome. And then the law comes after they make the decision of what they want to do. So, the law doesn't get involved until a prosecutor decides to prosecute, right? And then the law comes after that, right? So it's,
Question about that then. Like, do you think that like, let's just pick a different law, because what you're using right now is the law of like, it's like securities laws, and most people don't really have a grasp. They have no understanding of it. Most people, like the general public, I have only a little bit more than the average person. Well, probably a lot more than the average person, to be fair, but just because I've researched it. I spent hours researching this because I'm like, why is this happening? So let's take something simple. So I was going to say, let's take something simple like running a stoplight. Did you catch all that?
Yeah, there was a little bit of a technical issue, but I think we're back now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to say, since the securities laws are more complicated, what do you think about something like running a stoplight? It's very clear cut. If you run a stoplight, it's illegal. You know that. I know that. It's the same with securities laws. Like the securities laws, they're just a little more difficult to understand. You'd have to take 10 minutes to do the research. Like it would take 10 minutes. It's very clear cut that running a stoplight is illegal. The reason you shouldn't run a stoplight is because it protects people. The reason that you should not commit securities fraud is because it protects people. Like the securities laws protect people from being scammed. And yes, it is possible to be scammed through a registered security. It's possible. Very, very much more unlikely. Way more unlikely. Like all of these programs are collapsing. All the crypto programs that are unregistered are collapsing. So yeah. So what about like?
I mean, it is all about probabilities.
Yeah. Well, the probability is about like almost 100% that these are all going to rug pull. So I don't understand. I have a question also. Then this is what I think that you're doing, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think that you can admit to this, but I think that, and this isn't like an attack anyway. I think that like what you're doing is that you're like, oh, these are very good commissions to sign people up to these things, like because they pay really well. And then whenever the money goes into the account, now you're funded an account that gets a lot of ROI. So the bigger your channel gets, and the more people you recommend to get in there. And you're saying, oh, here's how much money I'm making, which persuades people to join. It's a very easy sell. Like anybody with a little bit of charisma, a little bit of marketing knowledge would be able to make a lot of money by generating commissions and cashing them out very quickly. So what I think that you're doing is that you're playing all of these, I'm going to call them Ponzi schemes, and you're playing them, like you mentioned, the odds. You're saying, if I get in early enough and I can make 200% in the next 6 months, and I can get all of my money out really quick, and most of the money that's invested is their commissions from other people anyways, then what's the problem? Is that what you're doing, and is that kind of your stance on it?
Yes, only I'm not going to concede to the Ponzi scheme thing.
Okay.
Let's not call them that. In terms of what they are, is that they're opportunities and their platforms and things of that nature. But yeah, I mean, definitely, I'm a trader. So
they're going to
I practice risk management. Well, I try to get in. I try to get the benefit and then get out before there's a rug pull, like you said, or before there's a collapse, or but with some of them, like I said, I'm going to have losses too. So I mean, I'm not the only person who's going to have a loss or not going to have a loss if something rug pulls, right? I don't want anything to rug pull, but I try to preach on, my channel that, hey, these things happen, right? These things, sometimes they go away. And so we just have to be smart about it, right? But in terms of, I mean, that's pretty accurate, man. I mean, I have no apologies for that. I don't feel that it's wrong, and so that's,
The
go ahead.
profits, I'm going to call them profits for the sake of this discussion,
Sure.
are from people that have signed up under your referral, and the majority of them all lose money. And also, the money that you made through the trading or whatever it is that they're claiming to do for their ROI, that money that's made is actually, since they're all collapsed Ponzi's, very clearly collapsed Ponzi's, then
I see where this is going, but go ahead.
Yeah, so the money is, I mean, it's not basically stolen, it is stolen. It's a fraudulent investment that you recommended someone sign up for. And even if you didn't recommend someone sign up for, then for people to make any money in this, there is no ROI generated anywhere. So there's no audited ROI. Like, it's unprovable for any of these platforms. You can't prove it anywhere. If that's the case, then the money is coming from the victims of it, and it's a zero-sum game. It's actually worse than a zero-sum game because there's no ROI generated, and the owners are the ones taking most of the money because they have access to all of the information to know when the perfect time to pull is. So they're taking their cut. So say it's a negative 50% sum game, right? Instead of a zero-sum game. Then if we know those things, and these programs are going down, like they're clearly not generating ROI, you can't prove it at least, then you don't feel a little bit bad that like there are going to be multiple people that I'm going to have to be YouTube friendly, I think, off themselves. There are going to be multiple people that do that as a result of NovaTech collapsing. They're going to trust it. They trusted their neighbor, they invested their life savings, and now it's all gone. So just because of what you promote, like disclaimers, this is risky.
Right.
The other side is someone is going to do something bad to themselves, like because of this. And the money is coming from them. It's not coming from trading. There's no proof. There's no proof that it's coming from trading. So what do you think about that? Like the victims of Ponzi schemes?
Well, why do you feel the need to protect people? I mean, why do you feel the need to, people ought to be able to make their own decisions about things. I mean, I don't agree with somebody self-terminating, right? I don't agree with that. But at the end of the day, if that's what somebody's going to do, then that's what they do. But I'm not going to blame myself for somebody's decision to do that. Okay. So I'm not, me and you have we have a lot of similarities, but we have a big major difference, is that you believe that people need to be protected, and you're, I don't know how old you are, but I'm assuming you're a little bit younger than me, and you think that the law is going to be something that's going to be a positive thing that's going to protect people. I know that it's not. Just because I've had, the life experience, it's not going to protect anyone. The law is not going to protect anyone. And also, the people who make a decision to invest in something, and if you make an investment, if you lose your money, you're going to want to blame somebody. And so then it just turns into the blame game, man. But, well, this person made me do it, or I didn't know, I didn't have all the information. And if you do watch my channel, you'll know that I'm pretty objective when it comes to people putting out like knowingly false information, right? I'm very much against that. Okay. But at the same time, I think people ought to have the right to make a decision, and they ought to have the right to make a stupid decision. They ought to have the right to make a terrible decision. I don't feel the need to protect them, Brandon. I don't feel the need to protect somebody from the consequences of their own decisions. Right. So, I mean, I can
interject really fast that these scams wouldn't scam as many people if people didn't have YouTube channels promoting them. They wouldn't, if if people called them out more, I've definitely saved people from investing in this. People have commented, people have sent me emails, and I only have 4 videos on my channel, and I've saved people from doing this so far. So like my plan is to be the voice on the other side of this, saying this is a scam, and for me protecting people, it's like, well, these people that are you in this case, and like I'm not attacking a person, but are committing securities fraud, which is there again to protect the consumer. That's what the laws are there for. So since this is so blatant and people are just putting it out there are more and more and more victims of this. And it's like, well, instead of me just being like, wow, I can't believe these people are falling for this, it's like, why don't I just do something about it? That's kind of what I thought. And it goes back to like running a stoplight. Like there's a law for a reason. I'm with you. I'm actually a small government person. Like I'm more like libertarian to begin with. I lean way more that way. You don't think that I do based on what I'm saying, but I do think that there should be some regulation on things like investments, because most people aren't sophisticated enough. Most people they go to work and they go home. They don't research securities laws. They don't research these things to know. They don't research investments. Someone's telling them, like, hey, if you invest $1,000, you can have 4.7 billion in 10 years. And people literally break out the compound interest calculator. There are YouTube videos.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever done it, but there's plenty of that going on. And there are people that in Nigeria that make $200 a month or $100 a month. You know this, you've been in the Philippines. People make $200-300 a month. They're taking $100 and putting it in this because they think they're going to make money. And now it's like, now you just benefited or promoting something that this actually ends up happening in, and it happens over and over and over again. So back to the stoplight thing really fast. That law is there to protect people. If someone runs a stoplight, it's illegal and you could kill someone. So you're gonna have to bleep that out, that word. But if like that law is there for a reason, I think that's a good law in general. Like it keeps order in things. And I think the Securities Act of 1933 is a good law, like, to be put in place too, because there were so many consumers being scammed. And right now, this is just like so blatant and widespread. That's why I feel the need to step up and do something about it, rather than just, like, I actually understand this and I want to share this with people. So I think we agree on most things, to be fair. I'm with you. I actually have this might shock you based on what I'm saying right now. My background, I used to be I was a professional poker player, which is a zero-sum game. The difference to me, though, so you're playing the odds and what you're doing, I understand the odds. I could play that game just as good, maybe better than you, to be fair, not an insult, but like I was a really high-ranked professional poker player. And
I'm sure you'd be better than me, man. I'm not a poker player, so
it's a zero-sum game. Poker is, right? And they take rakes, so it's actually less than a zero-sum game because the casinos take their little cut. But if I play it better than other people, I end up taking their money, right? Okay, so how is that not the same thing as what you're doing, right? Well, to me, the difference is there's not a law against it to start with, like start there. But the other side of it is that that if you go to the casino and you sit down to play poker, you know what you're doing. Everybody knows that that's gambling. Like even if you're not smart, maybe you have a gambling addiction, even if you're not sophisticated, though, like that's what you're getting yourself into. With Ponzi schemes, people break out the compound interest calculator and they say, oh, you can make this much money in 5 years. You can retire. You can make your car payment with this. You're like targeting people, not specifically you, targeting people who don't even have much money. So understand the odds, understand what you're doing. And you admitted basically that is what you're doing. So understand how that works. But I just see it as mass deception. I think that you actually I know you're going to tell me I'm wrong here. I think that you understand that it is a Ponzi scheme. I think you truly do understand that, because like there are like 30 red flags about NovaTech and all the other ones that have been promoted. I haven't looked at the other ones you're promoting right now, but I think that you understand that, and that you're just playing the odds and you say, well, live and let live, like dog eat dog world. I think that like that's kind of how you view it, and you're like, oh, I'm getting in early, I'm getting the commissions because I'm smarter than these people and taking advantage. I think I think that's what I think you do actually understand it's a Ponzi scheme. Go ahead and tell me I'm wrong.
Well, that's just accusation of me acting in bad faith, right? Is what that is. And you know, hopefully, I really truly hope you continue to tune into my channel, bro. I really do, because I think that you know, you might change your opinion on that. But you know, once again, going back to the red light thing, I mean, you're right. Running a red light's against the law, right? And people are still gonna run red lights. It's gonna happen, and then somebody could get hurt. Now, once somebody gets hurt, then that's when the laws get involved, right? And that's when, you know, you get in trouble. I mean, not everybody who runs a red light is being prosecuted, right? But if somebody gets hurt, they'll definitely be prosecuted. And at the end of the day, once again, it's somebody made a decision to target that person, right? Somebody made a decision to target, made a decision to prosecute, made a decision to break out the law, made a decision to take the law in the court, read the law in front of a judge, made that decision on and on and on and on until the guy gets convicted, he ends up in jail, right? And there's other people who do the same thing, but just for whatever reason, they're not the one that's targeted, or they're not the one that's made an example of, right? You ever heard that in the legal world? Well, we have to make an example of this person. We have to make an example of this CEO because he didn't, you know, he didn't give his people $15 an hour. So we have to make an example of him, right? So let's give him a year of prison time while 500 other people are doing the exact same thing and they don't get made an example of, right? So you don't have in our society, what you have, and in Western society, is you have an attempt at, you know, having a fair, you know, justice is blind type legal system, but you don't have that. There's only one law, right? And that's the law that is within every single human being, whether you live in America or Philippines or Africa or wherever you live. And at the end of the day, there are no victims, right? To be a victim, it's that I can't think of anything more sad than that, right? Than to embrace a victim mentality, right?
Well, I agree with that, but
I mean, did you have a hard childhood, right? Did something happen when you were a kid? Well, hey man, guess what? Something happens to a lot of people when they're a kid. What are you going to do? How are you going to live your life? How are you going to respond? Are you going to be a victim for the rest of your life? Or are you going to take accountability, take responsibility for their actions? Look, frankly, I think investing $300,000 in NovaTech was an idiotic decision, right? I'm not calling the person an idiot, but it's not a smart decision, right? Why would you do that? Okay, and so it's just, and then to shift it onto the leaders, and then to shift it onto the, you know, bring the law involved and make these accusations, man. You know, that's not going to solve the problem. At the end of the day, people have to embrace responsibility, accountability. I don't think that it is much different than sitting at the poker table, right? I don't think it is much different, because the thing about poker is you've got a game there, and if you know how to play it the right way, you can benefit from it. And the other people sitting at the table, they know what they're doing, man. They know they're sitting down with Brandon. They know Brandon's a rock star when it comes to playing poker. They know that, and they're doing it, and they made that decision. It's not your fault that they sat down and that, you know, whatever they might lose a hand. But
no
I
one
don't want to
told
see that happen.
no one broke out a compound interest calculator and told them you can retire or pay your car payment by doing this. Like,
Okay, I don't know if I've said that specifically, but I know that at first when I joined NovaTech, everybody was breaking out the compound interest calculator. So I did that too at first. And
showing the returns.
yeah.
Like this isn't no one thinks this is a skill game. No one thinks this is gambling. Like, you know, it's gambling. You know that what you're doing is gambling, that you're going to be able to get out in time before it collapses. You know that.
Well, that's what I hope, man. I mean, I lose at these things too.
You try, but you know this. They don't, other people don't know this. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm here saying this is a Ponzi scheme. It's going to collapse. Over 90% of people are going to lose money in this. And people are still here like, oh, I got my withdrawal. I'm like, yeah, you got your bonus account withdrawal a month late. Like, and it was like Cynthia Pettion herself said that, guys, this is crypto. It should only take 2 minutes to send a payment. And
Right.
they're accepting payments, but
Yeah.
they're accepting payments, but they can't send one. Like, let me go deposit right now. I would never do it. Let me go deposit right now.
Yeah.
They'll take my money instantly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I do want to comment because you talked there for a minute and you were talking about the victim mindset. I'm completely with
Right.
you until it comes to like, if someone, so you're basically like, you would blame like a R-word victim. Like you would say like, oh, it's their fault. Like say a lady's sitting in her house watching TV and someone breaks in and does bad things. You're like, oh, she's not a victim. Like, you know, she made the choice to be alive. Like she just happened to be sitting there. Like, I mean, there are victims, and there's also the victim mindset. People in Ponzi schemes are victims, but I'm not saying that they should have a victim mindset. I'm saying they should report it to the authorities. They should say like, wow, my neighbor, that guy who told me this, he's made like James Corbett's made over $2 million in this thing, and he's not keeping his money in there because Cynthia and Eddie are friends with him. So James Corbett signed me up and I lost my money. Like, I'm not gonna get my withdrawals. You should go report it to the authorities. They are actually victims. I understand what you're saying about victim mindset.
And I think that is happening, Brandon. I mean, I think that some people are doing that.
for
You know,
sure.
so we're gonna have to see how that, how that plays out.
Quick question, and we can jump off here soon. I'm sure maybe you have a couple questions for me. The last question that I have for you that I wrote down while we were chatting here is, do you think it's better for the government to shut down a Ponzi scheme or for it to collapse? Which one would you say is better?
Well,
I'll let you think it
I
through and
think
weigh the pros and cons there.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that a Ponzi scheme, once it becomes, known and proven and everything like that, then I think the government has a responsibility to shut it down, right?
No, I'm asking a
But
different question. Do you think it's better for the government to shut down a Ponzi scheme or for it to collapse? Like it, just because the government finds out it's a Ponzi scheme at like a later date doesn't make it not a Ponzi scheme before. So let's say that we know something is a Ponzi scheme. Like let's say
okay,
that we know that it is for sure. You know it. Like I already know these other ones are Ponzi schemes. Let's say you even know it. Okay.
okay.
You know it's a Ponzi scheme. Would you rather it get shut down by the government, or would you rather it build up and then collapse where the promoters and the higher up people, the top like 5% of people make money? Would you rather the government shut it down, or would you rather it collapse, knowing that it's a Ponzi scheme?
Well, knowing that it's a Ponzi scheme, I wouldn't be involved in it. Okay, just because of the inevitable, how those always play out. But I have to answer your question, and it's not a yes or no answer. It's it's an agnostic answer. I don't really, I wouldn't get involved in it, right? And
This isn't
so,
about you being involved. Okay. Let's say we're having coffee. We're having a beer one day. I don't know if you have beers. We're having a beer together one day, and
okay,
we see a Ponzi scheme right beside of us. We know it's a Ponzi scheme, and we're like, "Wow, this is a Ponzi scheme!" Like we know it is. Like it's
yeah,
like it's as blue. Like it's as true as the sky is blue, right? You know it is. It's
okay,
a fact,
okay,
and it's
okay. I'm
beside
with
of
you.
us. We're not getting involved. We're outside of it. We're looking like, wow, that's a Ponzi scheme. Would you rather the government step in and shut it down, or would you rather it build up and then collapse? We have nothing to do with it.
Well, in my view, the government is a bit of a Ponzi scheme itself, right? And so
Let's
are
not
most
deflect. I
businesses.
understand what you're doing. Let's not deflect.
Well, no, I mean, I
Specific
think that that's
question.
I think that that's a valid point. I mean, you want one Ponzi scheme to come in and shut down another Ponzi scheme. No, I wouldn't want to get involved. No.
I'm not asking you about getting involved. You wouldn't want the government to shut down a Ponzi scheme. You'd rather it build up and collapse. Is that what you're saying?
I have no opinion. I'm not for the government coming in on it, and I'm not for it, building up and collapsing either. But I'm not going to sit here and like side with the government coming in and shutting something down because they take too many they overstep their boundaries, right? And they do that too often, right?
Let's
And
say that
you
they're
know,
not overstepping their boundaries. You keep saying that they're in power, they're overstepping. I mean, it's like it's pretty clear. I get what you're doing because you don't. I don't think you want to answer. You can say if you don't want to answer, that's fine. But it's like a pretty simple. Like, all right, Ponzi scheme. It's definitely
I'm
a Ponzi
answering your
scheme.
question. You just don't like my answer.
Yeah.
You don't like the answer I'm giving you. That's what's happening.
Yeah, because you didn't say yes or no. Basically, you're saying you would rather the government not shut it down. Is that it? You would rather it build up and collapse.
I don't care
Okay.
one way or the other.
Okay, that's fair. Well, I'll tell you my answer. I would rather the government step in and shut it down because then a receivership will be set up and they'll do clawbacks like they did, for example, with like Zeke rewards. And at least a few years later, some of the victims will actually get their money back. The victims that were defrauded and deceived through illegal activity, they'll get their money back. So I would prefer that to happen, which is why I keep pushing for people to report these scams, because I want the people that are making money from it to have to give the money back, because then there'll be repercussions, at least some, for their actions. And then, like example, like Cynthia and Eddie, the reason why these are so widespread right now, people build these things up, flee the country, and then they go to a place that doesn't extradite for financial crimes, like Dubai as an example. Possibly Panama, I think, might be where Cynthia and Eddie are going because they have ties to there. But like they built what happened. Yeah, that's what happens basically. Like I would much rather the government step in.
We'll see how that plays out. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out for sure.
Yeah. So last thing, there are 2 cease and desists against NovaTech now. I don't know if you saw the recent one in Ontario. And what is it? 6 fraud warnings, I think. I think it's 6 fraud warnings.
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw that out there because
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're
there's
coming after
evidence of, you know, it's going to happen. Something's going to happen. Like Cash FX hasn't paid for a year and a half, and you know, there's been like 50 or 60 fraud warnings, maybe even more, and cease and desist. Do you have any questions for me? We've been going for a while here, so I've just kind of asked you a bunch of questions. I'm sure you might have some for me. And I'm also happy to do this again at some point if you'd like. It's fun.
Yeah, yeah, no, I would love to, man. I mean, I'd love to come on here. I don't want to get, you know, as long as the conversation is respectful and there's mutual respect, I don't mind having the conversation. I actually really enjoy this type of thing. What I don't like is when it starts getting into ad hominem attacks, right? And luckily I haven't had to delete too many comments or things like that from my YouTube, but sometimes it just goes over the line and it's just like, okay, you're just throwing rocks at this point, and we're not really having an intelligent conversation. Well, I do have something I wonder, and I don't know if you would even have an answer for it, but what I wonder is that if the government or the legal system or the justice system, if they ever turned on you, and if something ever happened to where you got ground up in the cogs of justice, right? And you know, now you're out of it, you're on the other side, and I wonder if your opinion would change on some of these things, you know, in terms of, you know, just how much the government really should be trying to, you know, protect everybody.
What crime did I commit in this hypothetical that you're wondering?
Well, not necessarily that you did commit a crime, man. I mean, there's a lot of innocent people in prison. Okay. So I mean, it's just something happens, and you know, the thing is, there comes a point, I believe, in people's life where, you know, you begin to change your outlook on certain things. And you know, the thing about blaming the victim for the R case, that's an extreme, you know, that's an extreme. I would think that's not a generality, right? In terms of somebody breaking into somebody's house and hurting somebody like that. Yeah, but then at the end, that person has to make a decision at the end if they're going to, because they are technically a victim, right? They were victimized, right? But if they're going to remain, if they're going to remain in that type of victim mentality. And not that you're necessarily going to have the answer to this. I just wonder that if you saw the other side of some of this regulation, if you saw the other side of some of these laws, and whether or not your opinion would change. That's just what I wonder.
Yeah, so I want to answer that. I would love to. My question is, what crime did I commit? And you said, let's say you didn't commit a crime. In that case, if I'm innocent, if I was not breaking the law, then I would be, I would be spreading that information everywhere. Hey, be careful about this. These people are bad. Let's try to fix this, right? I would be trying to do that. So if I did commit a crime, depending, if it was like an actual crime that I committed and I got charged for it, what am I going to say? Like, I committed a crime. I should be punished. There are consequences to your actions, to my actions. So knowing that's what kind of keeps the world safe in general. I mean, that's part of what keeps the world safe. Of course, there's the other side, me, as an example, going against this thing, which is trying to help people too. So you can do it with or without the law. Like, you should respect what I'm doing since I'm not using the law to go out there and warn people, right? This is kind of what you're arguing for. But for your question is, what crime did I commit? If I'm innocent, then that's, I would be doing something about it. I would be being very vocal about it. And if I was guilty, I would say, well, probably shouldn't have been doing that. Shouldn't be committing crimes. So that would be my answer to that. Was that sufficient?
That was that was an answer that somebody would give who has never been through that typical or that type of situation that I gave. And so the thing is, man, at the end of the day, you don't have to necessarily commit a crime or not commit a crime. You just have to, if these forces, these legal entities and things like that, if they decide to go after you, they'll figure out something that you did, Brandon. You did something, right? And they'll find it, they'll figure it out, and then they'll bring you before the court, and they'll do the little song and dance, and then that's it. And then after you come out of that, yeah, you might sing a different tune. You might say, hey, you know what, this is, we need, like you said, we need to fix this stuff.
If I'm innocent, yes. But you're comparing this to, like, the whole conversation we're having has been about securities fraud. So it's like you're trying to tie those together. Like, securities fraud is pretty clear cut, and intent doesn't matter. Ignorance of the law does not matter. So if someone's committing securities fraud, then I think they should go to jail. If I beat someone up in the street, I think I should go to jail. If I rob the guy down the street, I should go to, like, there should be some sort of consequences. Like, you can't just be like the big bad bully that walks around and does all these bad things to everybody. Like, that's I mean, eventually I guess you would get your punishment, but you're kind of arguing for the wild, wild west where there's like no regulation on anything, and eye for an eye. This seems like what you're arguing. But
what I'm saying is nobody's innocent. Nobody's innocent.
Wow.
Okay. And if they want to target somebody, they will. And if they want to find a law that, to use, they will find the law. And that is, so that is how it works. And, what I'm trying to convey is that maybe you haven't really looked at it that way. I don't know. But like I said, what I will say is that I think that, all in all, you're doing good work, because I think people ought to know about what a Ponzi scheme is, and they ought to know what a scam is. Now, I think that I don't think I'm going to be able to convince you not to say something is a scam. If you believe that it's a scam, you're probably going to say it, right? And so I'm not going to convince you otherwise. It's just, the thing is, those things have to be, they have to be proven.
Outcome, if I can predict the outcome and show you 20 red flags of circumstantial evidence that it's clearly a scam, like circumstantial evidence, you add it all together, it's exactly like this, and this past scam. They're all the same. if I can show you that, and the only green flag that you gave me was one, that, what was it? That they would have done it earlier if it wasn't a scam. If that's the only green flag and I can give you 20 red flags, then like, yeah, of course I'm going to say it's a scam. Like, I know that it's a scam. Like, it's very clear cut. If people actually do research, it's very clear cut. There's like, you have plausible deniability, again, what I talked about earlier, very clear cut. And the thing that you were saying about crimes, they can lock you up whether you did it or not, I agree with you. The problem, though, is there are levels to, like, yeah, I'm sure I jaywalked before. I've been in a bar fight before. Some guy like attacked me, I beat him up, whatever. Like, or maybe I've gotten beat up before. Like, I've been jumped. Like, there are things that happen, right? But like, there are levels to crimes. There's like blatant crimes that are out in public and obvious that are stealing billions of dollars or at least hundreds of millions of dollars. And then there's like, I said the wrong thing about the Chinese government one time, and if I visit China, they can put me in jail. There's levels to what you're saying, and I'm talking about blatant crimes, something as clear-cut as running a stop sign, something as clear-cut as, I don't know, like punching a police officer, like something that clear-cut and blatant. Like, and that's what's actually happening. It's like out front, blatant, it's happening. And the reason there are no people that are invested in NovaTech that has a Security 7 license, people that actually understand these things, there's none of them. Zero of them invested. Like, why would they not invest? It's the best investment ever. It's why aren't the richest people in the world investing and being trillionaires in 2 years? Like, it's very clear. So you're talking about the crimes. You can be locked up for anything. It's just if they decide they want to lock you up. That's true. I agree. But there's also blatant clear cuts, like things that people are doing that are like, it is a scam. Like, you can't just like, those aren't the same. If you're committing a crime, you say, well, everybody commits crimes. It's not a good argument, right? It's you're saying, well, someone else does it too, or you could go to jail for saying something bad about China. Like, that's not it's not a comparison. So if I was guilty of something, as much as I wouldn't want to go to jail, I would have to eventually be like, I'm not going to do that again. That's a bad idea, right? So I get where you're coming from, but you're using like rare, somewhat rare instances. Like, say 5% of people in jail are innocent, something along those lines, and there are other people outside that are guilty. Okay, but you also want to try to get as many criminals as you can if they're like very clear-cut criminals. If they're stealing hundreds of millions of dollars, something should be done about that. Unless you think it should be eye for an eye, and you probably don't want that, and like the Petions don't want that. Like, no one actually wants that. Like, it should just be shut down and the money given back to the people. That's what I think.
Yeah, well, of course, man. And if there's like stealing of money involved and like hundreds of millions of dollars and things like that, then yeah, of course. But what I'm saying is, I don't know. Okay, I'm at the posture of I don't know, and I'm waiting to see what happens in April, and we'll see, we'll just kind of have to take it from there. But yeah, man, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Okay. Well, let's hop off here, man. It's been a long talk and a good one, I think. People would enjoy it. So maybe we'll do it again. I'll be in touch, yeah?
Thank you for having me. And yeah, absolutely. If you ever want to do it again, just reach out. You know where to find me.
Yeah. Thanks, Vaughn. I appreciate your time, man.
Okay. Take care. Bye.